Okay, Bible and Daily Lifers, here we are. We are continuing Bible, the whole Bible, and nothing but the Bible. And we are in the book of Judges. We're going to do a little overview of the book of Judges. What we've been doing is going through the Bible. We've been giving the sections and going over them, what's happening in those particular sections, reviewing the history, putting everything in its place, and doing an overview of the book, and then pointing out the particular things that are important about that book, maybe the important characters, the important places, the important things that happen. So we are in the book of Judges, which is the historical books, the first five books of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, known as the Law, the Torah, the Law of Moses. Now we are into the history books. There's 12 of them. We're into the second one. The first one was Joshua, and now we're into Judges. So it continues from Joshua, moving into the land, taking the land with the people. After 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, it was an 11-day journey, so they could have made it in a couple of weeks, but it took them 40 years. Most of those who were the original ones who came out are not the ones who are now going in, so it's a whole new group. Joshua brings them in. Joshua is the leader that brings them in. But there's an important thing that we need to point out in the book of Judges, and that's that God, with the children of Israel, has always wanted to be their leader. He has been the one who is going to be their king. So they have no king. They had Joshua who was leading them, but he wasn't their king. He was just a military leader that was helping them to take the land. So now that they're in the land, they still have no king, and their king is supposed to be God, and God has given them the rules of the kingdom, gave it to them on Mount Sinai, and the commandments, and the other rules, the other 614 that he gives to them. So they're in the land, and this is where we pick up. Joshua had brought them in. Now, Joshua dies in the last section of Joshua, and it says this in the beginning of the book of Judges. Now, after the death of Joshua, it came to pass that the children of Israel asked the Lord, "Who shall be the first to go up for us against the Canaanites and fight against them?" And the Lord said, "Judah shall go. Indeed, I have delivered the land into his hand." So Judah said to Simeon, his brother, "Come up with me now to my allotted territory, that we may fight the Canaanites, and I will likewise go with you to your allotted territory." And Simeon went with him. So they're going to continue to conquer the land. They're going to continue to take the place that God had given them. And Judah is now going to go up in the place of...
This is your scheduled gate. The sign was correct a few minutes ago. We're going to work on
in the place of Joshua.
Once again to reflect your flight 1887 to Nassau.
And Judah is going to get his brother Simeon. Now there's an interesting thing here, because there's the 12 tribes of Israel, and when they go into the land and it's divided up and Joshua is giving them the allotted parts, there's 12 tribes and they each have their allotted part. And so they're to live in that area, live in that region, have that. But when there's war, they help each other. So that's what's going on here. There's 12 tribes, one nation. The tribes live and have their own commerce, their own way of living, their own allotted land, their own taking in marriage and living the way that they live. But when there's war, just like here, they are going to work together. And that's a theme that's going to run all through the scripture, this idea of 12 tribes, one nation. And so that would go all the way into the New Testament, where we find that we are many people, but one body. So, verse 4, then Judah went up, and the Lord delivered the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hands, killed 10,000 men at Bezek, and it goes on and it talks about the battle that they did. So they do the battle and they win the battle. So, of course, there's analogies there. There's national analogies for them, personal analogies for us, that we fight battles, personal battles, and we win them. We overcome. But then something happens in verse 2 that's going to continue to happen through the book of Judges. Then the angel of the Lord came up to Gilgal to Bochum and said, "I led you from Egypt and brought you to the land to which I swore to your fathers, and I will never break my covenant with you. And you shall make no covenant with the inhabitants of this land. You shall tear down their altars, but you've not obeyed my voice. Why have you done this? So they didn't completely do it. They didn't completely get rid of everything. Sound like an analogy to the Christian life and experience, not completely getting rid of everything. And what will it do? It will come around and it will bite you. Why have you done this? Therefore I also said, I will not drive them out before you, but there'll be thorns in your side, and their gods will be a snare to you. And so it was when the angel of the Lord spoke these words to all of the children of Israel, they lifted up their voices and they wept. They were sad. They didn't want God to leave them. They didn't want God to not be with them when they were conquering the land. And they called the name of the place Bochum, and they sacrificed there to the Lord. And when Joshua had dismissed the children of Israel, went to their inheritance to possess the land. So now again, here we are again with another account of the death of Joshua. So the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders who outlived Joshua, who had seen the great works of the Lord, which he had done for Israel. Now Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died, and he was 110. So we had already recounted that. And they buried him at the border, and tells us where it is. And when all that generation had been gathered to their fathers, another generation arose that did not know the Lord, nor the work he had done for Israel. Two things. They didn't know the Lord, and they didn't know the works that he had done for Israel. Now this is an interesting concept, because you can't make somebody know the Lord, but you can recount to them what he's done. And that's what we want to do when we're raising children and raising next generations. We want to tell them what God has done, so that they can know those stories about God and choose or not choose. But here it says another generation arose, gathered to their fathers, died, and they didn't know the Lord. So now here we are. Isn't it amazing that we're just a generation away from them not knowing the Lord or what he had done? One generation. So what's going to happen when they don't know the Lord or his ways? Well, verse 11, the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and they served the Baals. So now they're just going to go out and they're going to serve whoever it is that they're going to serve. They're going to find a way to, to satisfy the need inside and the hunger that I feed. Ecclesiastes 3:11, that God has put eternity in our hearts. Everybody's looking to worship something. And so they're going to worship, and they're going to fall away from the Lord. And it's going to be this whole cycle of right here of them being disobedient to God. They don't know the Lord. They don't know what he's done. They didn't pass it on to the next generation like they were supposed to. And so they're going to have enemies in the land. And that's what happens in chapter 3. There's enemies in the land. And so in verse 7, the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. They forgot the Lord, and they served the Baals and the Ashtoreths. The anger of the Lord was hot against Israel. Verse 9, the children of Israel cried out to the Lord, and the Lord raised up a deliverer. So that's what the judges are. They're deliverers. And he delivers them. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him. He went out to war, and the land was at rest for 40 years. 40 years, just in that little section. So we're going to go through a period in the book of Judges that is about 350 to 400 years. And it's going to be the same cycle of them being disobedient to God, him raising up a judge, not a king, not a political leader, maybe a military leader, maybe a cheerleader, just getting everybody going and getting everybody to turn back to the Lord, but mostly military, because what happens is that the tribes in the land are being conquered by people, and then he raises up a military leader to free them, and then there's that period of prosperity. So here's a period of prosperity, 40 years of rest. What's going to happen after 40 years? Remember what it said? A generation arose that didn't know the Lord nor what he had done. Same. And that's going to be the whole cycle of the book of Judges until we get all the way to the end of the book of Judges. And at the very end of the book of Judges, what it's going to tell us is this continues. We're going to look at some of the characters here. Let's get to the end of Judges. And what does it say? 21, 25. In those days, there was no king, and everyone did what was right in their own eyes. So they're going to go that period, 350, 400 years with no king, God desiring to be their king. And we're going to move into a period of history where they're going to get a king. But we're going to look at some of the judges first. So bless you guys. Love you guys. Let's keep trekking through 230 miles an hour, going through the Bible. The whole Bible, nothing but the Bible. Bless you.